All right, Dean Jackson, thank you for taking the
Bobby, I'm
time.
excited. This is awesome.
So, was sitting down with Joe Polish, Evan Carmichael, and they're like, "Listen, we can help you with events, a 25K group, Genius Network." And I've always listened. I love marketing, so this is great. I
Yeah.
happened to be in Orlando speaking at a car washing expo, and then I had to go look at the DeLorean. Got an '81 DeLorean, getting it all done up.
Get that flux
The flex,
capacitor
flex
working.
capacitor, flux capacitor, and yeah. Uh, but Dean Jackson, he's an expert in marketing, sales, lead generation. He's 45 minutes from here in New Haven or Winter Haven, the co-founder of 90 Minute Books, owner of New Information.
Oh.
Dean fell in love with marketing as a young boy when he first realized that selling stuff on commission was an easier way than renting himself out by the hour for a regular job.
That's right.
He's never looked back since. Dean carried this days for the real work into his adult life and focused on a lifestyle-centered approach to business using marketing as the ultimate lever of a life of freedom and fun. He's the co-creator of I Love Marketing and co-host I Love Marketing along Joe Polish.
Yeah.
You're often known to be the Buddha of marketing.
That's funny.
And
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
tell everybody a little bit about what your history is and how
Well, I
you.
started out as a real estate agent. I started out in Canada, just outside of Toronto in Halton Hill. And I really started discovering marketing from my own business. I started out cold calling, doing cold calls like everybody. I was 21 years old and, didn't know what the business was all about, but they said, well, you got to prospect, got to, get out there and grind. So I was doing all the cold calls and it was working. I was good at it. And the thing that I discovered very quickly was that it was like a hamster wheel. As soon as I stopped making the cold calls, the leads stopped coming, right? You have to manually crank it to
Yep.
make it work. And as I started making more money, I started thinking, well, I want to use some of my money now to really leverage myself here a little bit. And so I started thinking, well, I'll do some personal promotion. So I'll start to get my name out there. So I started, doing all these, institutional image kind of ads, branding things. And I was spending a lot of money. I was getting a lot of recognition. But at the end of the day, it wasn't really turning into,
Wasn't converting into
wasn't
money.
converting into more business. And then I discovered direct response marketing, and I discovered a book called The E-Myth too,
Michael
Michael
Gerber.
Gerber, right?
Yeah.
And then I got to meet Michael later, but I got that on a really deep level, like the idea of working on your business
Instead of in the
and doing it in a way that you could duplicate it 5,000 times. So, and at the same time, I started learning about direct response. So I went to work on a system of how can I get leads to come in without me in a leverage kind of way. So instead of focusing on getting my name out there, I started focusing on getting my prospects' names in here. That's a far more valuable proposition, And so I started doing that. I created a guide to Halton Hills real estate prices where I live. And it was such a great system. I'd run it in the newspaper or in the real estate magazines. And in Toronto, there's called the Greater Toronto Area. So I was in one of the suburbs.
Okay.
And it was somewhere where people would live there and they'd work in the city and take the train, kind of like Connecticut to
Right.
New York kind of
Got
thing.
it.
And so I started running that guide and started generating all this business. I wasn't doing anything. The leads were coming in. I was sending them information I had a guide that showed all the house prices and stuff. And it blew up. And then I started, because I created it in a way that I could duplicate it.
When was this?
This was in 1991.
91.
So
Okay.
3 years into my real estate, doing the cold calling, doing the personal promotion. And then I hit on the direct response and the franchise prototype kind of model. And then I licensed that system that I created. I did a guide called Toronto and Beyond, 40 great places to live within an hour of the city. And I licensed my system to one realtor each of the 40 areas.
Oh my gosh.
So that was my first start in kind of duplicatable marketing, right? That I was hooked on it from then. And then I teamed up with a gentleman from California, Joe Stump, and we took that marketing approach. He already had a big coaching company for real estate agents. And we for 15 years together, we built that into one of the biggest coaching companies for real estate agents. And along that way, I learned all of the things that I was learning now about marketing a business that helps realtors market their business were things that were transferable to everything.
Yeah.
And that's how Joe and I met. Joe Polish and I met in 1997. And he was doing the same thing.
He's doing some
for
stuff
carpet
with EAS,
cleaners.
carpet cleaning.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
And so all the stuff, when we in 2010 then launched I Love Marketing, it was coming from that foundation of real world, marketing, now adapted to online, and all the principle based things that,
Yep.
all our 8 profit activators that
Yep.
we talk about, and the idea of breaking a business into the before unit, the during unit, and the after unit. Those were all things that are durable contexts. That was true 30 years ago, and it's going to be true 30 years from now. The only thing that changes is the technology and the methodologies that we have available to
Love that.
to do all of it.
So lots of questions here. First, I know you know Dan Kennedy.
I do.
Did.
Yes, that was so. That's
And I love Mark. It's No BS. He wrote all the No BS.
Yes, exactly.
About direct marketing.
Yeah.
And in his book, he mentions that you don't have to marketing to the influence another great. But he says there's no marketing that shouldn't be direct marketing. You can get it off of a billboard. You can get it off of a TV commercial, radio.
Yes. And that's it. And we had, so Joe and I sort of met because of that world. That's how we met, through the Dan Kennedy world. And when we did our first big I Love Marketing conference, he's the only speaker we had. We had Dan come and speak at our event.
So back in the day when I was mowing lawns, I had to be 14 years old. I used to listen to Tom Hopkins.
Oh, yeah.
And that seemed to be a big realtor.
Prospecting.
Yeah.
That was where I learned. I mean, my manager of the Royal LePage office where I started out, he, in the time between getting your license and getting the actual certificate that allows you to now sell, he gave me free reign of his real estate library, which was 2 books. There was a book by Tom Hopkins and another one by Danielle Kennedy, which was the same basic thing. Make your calls. Every yes or every no gets you closer to yes.
Count the no's.
Just count the no's. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go through those. This podcast is mostly directed for home service.
Okay.
It's going outside of home service. But, garage doors, everybody's got one. It's 40% of your curb appeal. It's the number 1 ROI in the home. 6 years in a row, Remodel Magazine, more than your kitchens or bathrooms.
Is that right? Wow.
We trademarked it to the smile of your home.
What does a garage door cost these days?
They range, our average store sells over $5,000. But, when you start getting into nice garages, I try to advertise to people with more than one garage.
Yeah.
And most people, we sell more garage doors in service being the garage door because it's old, it's not insulated. And when we show people what it'll look like with the new garage on the home. So 40% of our revenue comes from garage replacement. The rest of it comes from service.
So that works out perfectly. Like if I were looking at overlaying our
your methodology
model on this, that we would take the business and divide it into 3 parts. So the before unit, the during unit, and the after unit. And the during unit is the part of the business that does what it is that you do. So your capacity and ability to install a new garage door. If somebody called you up and said, hey, can I get a new garage? You've got the team, you've got the knowledge, you've got the ability to go out there and do it. That's the during unit. And they pay you, and that's great. Now, the sides of that, the before unit, is like we treat it like a separate business. We treat it like an independent unit of your business who acts like a supplier to your during unit. That's the way to think about it.
Okay.
Is think about setting up a business that's a supplier to your during unit. What they're supplying
Lead.
is people who want to get a garage. Yeah. So they find people, educate them, motivate them, make an offer, and they say yes. And then you go into the during unit and you do the job. Now, where most businesses fall down is they leave it at that. They go back and they try and find somebody new again instead of, they shake hands, they leave, everybody's happy, and they never contact them again.
Yeah, service agreement.
Yeah. And so now the after unit of the business is everything that you do to nurture lifetime relationships with people and orchestrate referrals. And they've all got their own metrics. They've all got their own ways of measuring, so that we know how the health of it is doing, right? Where you're looking at, one of the things we measure in the after unit is return on relationship. So I treat this idea of, I would call it like, garage doors under management. That's the way you kind of think about it, that you think about how many garage doors do you have under management, and treat it like the asset that it is for people. And that if anything ever goes wrong with it, that you're going to get that business. But also, if anybody needs a new garage, who knows the person that you've done the garage for, that they're going to immediately think of you and say, you need to call you guys,
I love this stuff. This is like my jam. So, one of the big things that I've realized when COVID happened is we got really, really busy. People were spending a lot more time at home. And 1A player, I believe, could run circles around 3D players, literally. And I think we don't use marketing enough,
right,
for marketing to people that we want to come work with us. So I hire great personalities, great eye contact, great tonality, big smile to tell a story.
Yeah.
And they're about relationship marketing. Cody Bateman sent out cards, wrote a book, quite a bit of books on that. A good friend of mine. And so the people really matter. I mean, who's running that call? Who's building the relationships? I mean, I'm getting ready to do some weird things for most people. I'm going to join in every single market the B&I groups. I'm going to have a representative.
Yes.
We're going to start doing a lot of guerrilla marketing. And one of the things is influencer affiliate marketing. Talk to me. Have you done much with the influencer? Like you find somebody big?
Well, I think that anybody can be an influencer. I think that's what I try and get people to think about, is being an influencer. How are they an influencer? Right? Like, if you look at, I do a lot of work with real estate agents, and you look at, they would be influencers. I get them to think about their clients as, homes under management, that when somebody moves into a home, that now you're there to kind of oversee. You're the one who got them into this asset, and that you should be the first person they think of if anything needs to be done with the home, right? I'll tell you, I told you my water heater just burst 2 days ago. So I'm in the middle of going through that, but it's such a hassle when you're a homeowner and that happens. You're like, now you're the one, it all stops with you. You've got to now figure out, who do I call and what do I do? I called my buddy Billy, who owns Top Flight Electric. He's got a electric company. There's something, he knows people.
Right.
He can recommend me. And I look at that as, he's an influencer in that, right? That's where we need to, understand who has influence over the homeowners that you're looking for. So I think that you look at the realtors like that as influencers, especially.
I mean, there's inspectors, because they're the first ones. What do you do when you you buy a new house? You change the locks.
That's exactly right.
You should change the keypad code.
Right.
Change the transmitter code.
Yeah.
You should also program your car. It's difficult. We can come out there and do
that.
Yeah. We're getting into flooring and storage.
Yeah.
So why not have the inspectors tell the client, why not move in and have all the shelving you need for Christmas and everything?
Do you do all the other stuff in the garage? Like
we're doing the flooring and the storage.
Yeah. So there you go. So flooring and storage and the garage door and the mechanicals, all of that. Yeah.
I just make it simple. I've also talked to the largest, Joe introduced me to one of the largest Ford dealerships.
Okay.
And I said, how big of a pain in the butt is it when they call you guys to try to figure out the home lead?
Yeah.
But
oh, wow.
I'm like, why don't you just let me go out there, give me $99? and then I'll give them a present from the dealership. And then I'll put a QR code right above the opener. And when every time you need a service, just QR code and boom. How much time and energy does that save?
Yeah. Super smart.
I just, I'd be curious, I've seen a lot of, I love marketing. I've been through Piranha marketing. I love marketing. I even do the Valbacks. They're located in Sarasota. And we've got a really good
People
ROI.
think this is the kind of thing that people think some of these things are old school and that, the online is the way now. But I'll tell you what, some of these offline things are just so, from an ROI standpoint, they're amazing.
What do you think? Because right now, every single home service company seems to be, the last 3 years is how do I get great people? I got more leads than I can handle. And there's a teeter totter. And now it's how do I turn the lead spigot back on? What are some easy ways that you would, if you were to start, let's just go generic home service company. We could do garage doors, air conditioning, plumbing, electrical. Where do you think, other than obviously you get your website, you get your GMB, you get reviews. Obviously, those are all easy, good things to do. Then your brand, get a great brand. And I use Dan Antonelli from Kick Charge. And my brand is beautiful. It says high end and it's clean and there's not a bunch of crap. But what are some of the things you would be thinking about?
Well, so I ran a painting company in college with a friend, and we started another company we called Name Droppers, where we would send out, this was in Canada. So in the spring and summer is when we were doing all the
I'm from Michigan. So
oh, okay. You know all about that. Yeah. So seasonal. But in the spring, we'd send out college kids doing, neighborhood surveys. We had a clipboard with the, survey forms and all that stuff. And we knew that we were looking for people who wanted to do painting. But we knew that if we go and send somebody, if we're going to go out to the door, there's so many other businesses that would love to know. There's so many things that they're going to be doing that are not just painting. So we had a little form where we had, we would just look for people who were doing home improvement projects over the summer. And we had a space for, roofing, siding, windows, landscaping, driveway, decks, fencing, pool, painting was one of the things. So we turned our lead generation into a profit center that way.
So you can sell those leads.
That's exactly what we did. And we had a relationship with a pool company that would give us 10% of the pool referral. And so in many cases, we would make more on that referral for the pool than we would if we painted somebody's eaves and soffits, And that is, so just thinking about when you think detached and modular and you think about that this business, the real thing that you want is you want people who want to get their garage replaced or get their, garage storage or garage flooring. But those garages are 100% attached to houses. And those houses are 100% attached to people who have relationships with a realtor or have, some home service thing. I told my guy, Billy, the electrician guy, I said, for years, I've wanted to have one place, one guy, somebody who takes our managed home ownership, I'm calling the category. Because there's, for investors and for property things, there's lots of opportunities for that. But I found out with the perfect articulation for what I'm looking for is that I want to live in my house like I'm a guest in your house. I don't want to think about my house. I want to live there. And if anything goes wrong, I just want you to handle it. We'll go, hey, Tommy, the water heater's broke. Come on it. Yep, that's what I'm looking for, rather than having to scramble. If my garage door broke, I wouldn't know who to call because I haven't had to have anything done with my garage. I don't have a garage guy.
Yep.
And so all these siloed people, I look at all the things that I've had to do, I've had to replace the roof on my house, $53,000 roof on my house. I've had, I don't know how many AC units I've had to do and replace between my house and my office. And nobody keeps in touch with you. Nobody builds that relationship with you.
What
They
is the
have to
best
be.
way to keep in touch, would you say? If you were to,
I think you got to understand the value of it first. And you look at the economics of it and you say, most people think about it that they're very short-term oriented. They're
they need
thinking,
Instagram.
yeah, they need that it would be, they think it's a shorter path from finding a new lead, getting a conversion, than it is to nurture a relationship with somebody. And you said, I forget what you said the number was, but about 40% of your business
Is new, and then we're at 17,000 service agreements.
yeah.
So we show
Perfect.
up
So
there once a year, lubricate, adjust, tighten everything.
yeah,
We give preferred service. We give some
yes,
discount,
yes,
and that's where building a customer for life and building
yeah,
that relationship and going out of your way to make them happy. It's easier to keep your existing customers, and they move and they want your service again.
yes.
So blow their minds.
And referrals. Do you focus on orchestrating referrals?
We haven't done great at referrals, and I know in real estate, what is time I would say that the most dearest, kindest thing you could do for me is the best compliment.
But I think that's completely wrong.
What is
Like
the
I've
best?
had that even Ivan Meisner, we had Ivan on I Love Marketing, the BNI guy. And, I've got a whole philosophy around referrals that you really have to understand why people refer in the first place. And you just said it, that what most people think, and they position referrals as you're doing me a favor. Like you're saying, I appreciate your referrals, or your referrals are the lifeblood of our business.
Right.
All these things. But referral, for one thing, is a fluffy word. Doesn't mean anything. And what we really want to have happen is, in the moment, when there's a referral opportunity, that they think about you and they introduce you to the person they've had the conversation with.
Right.
So 100% of referrals happen as a result of conversation. And in those conversations, 3 things have to happen. They have to notice that the conversation is about garages. They have to think about you, and they have to introduce you to the person they had the conversation with, not tell them to call you.
Yeah.
And this is where we say, we instruct people, don't keep us a secret, tell all your friends about us, spread the word about us, right? And then what happens is they do just that. They're in a conversation. It's about garages. Oh, you should call Tommy. Those guys are great. And then they leave and they think that they've done the right thing. And then you run into them at the grocery store and they say, hey, did my friend Nancy ever give you a call? I was telling her about you, they need to get a new garage. No, never heard from her. Oh man. Well, I saw they had a new garage. I thought maybe you did it, but I tell people about you all the time. And yet you don't see those people coming in saying, hey, Nancy told me to give you a call. So when you get into the position of understanding why people refer, the real reason we refer anything is to raise our status in the herd. And that's a really freaky thing, but we're genetically, evolutionarily wired to constantly be aware of our position in the herd. And our modern herd is our top 150, our group of people that we know. Most people are walking around. Most people don't know many people. You think about, we're kind of in a different world, that you're exposed to a lot of people, and, you're famous, and you've written a book, and everybody knows you got a podcast. So a lot of people know you, but most people in the real world, they don't know more than 150 people. And that's been evolutionarily set up for years and years. There's a guy, Robin Dunbar in Oxford, who they've actually called it Dunbar's number, because he's the guy that pioneered the research on it, that we can only hold 150 relationships in our mind, meaning, and I say this to people, like, if these are the people, if you saw them at the grocery store, you'd recognize them by name and you'd stop and have a conversation with them, and you've got a position in their life.
Right.
And the reason that it's set up like that is, back when we started playing the cooperation game and started banding together, that we'd be better off if you and I go do the hunting and the girls stay home and do the cooking and but we'd be better off as a group if we all had our, individual roles, kind of thing. But they had to limit it to 150 people, because for the safety of everybody, you had to know and recognize that he's in the herd, you're in the herd, that if somebody you don't recognize there, that's a threat,
Mhm.
right? So that's why when they got to 150, they would split off and they'd split into two herds and build again to 150, right? And so you see that now in so many companies, they've identified that that's the optimal number of employees in a unit, that they'll divide off into other units like that. And when they did a study on Facebook, the average number of friends that most people have is 153. So it fits out in every way. Most people, when you really think about it, even if they live in a city of 1 million people, they're walking around surrounded by NPCs, non-playing characters.
Right.
They're just, they know they're 150, their inner circle. They talk to the people they know at work. They talk to their friends. They talk to their family, their neighbors, people they do recreation stuff with, and that's it.
Yep.
So they don't have all of that, but they are very influential to those 150 people because we're wired to do it.
So how do you, when you go to ask for a referral or do the referral, what's the best way to
So try
start
and
that?
give them an opportunity to get the squirts of dopamine that raise their status in the herd. So if we were out herding and I'm out hunting and I find a big patch of blueberries and I'm coming back on the trail and I've got this big bundle of blueberries and I see you coming up the trail, I say, hey, Tommy, there's a bunch of blueberries, the big blueberry patch over that hill. So go get some and we'll have blueberry cobbler tonight or whatever.
Right.
And you now, in that moment, I'm higher status than you because I've added value to the herd.
Right.
And you're freeloading right now, right? So you feel this urge to balance the books and prove your value to the herd, just in case we ever needed to cull the herd, right? So you might say, well, watch out behind those rocks because I saw a lion over there. Now we're even. So we're wired like this. Like you see, if we were to go to Starbucks and I buy you a coffee and then tomorrow we go to Starbucks again, you're going to feel the urge to buy me a coffee because I bought last time. You hear it all the time. You got last time, I got it. Yeah. And if you don't, it might slip that time. But then if we go again a third day and you don't reach for your wallet to buy the coffee, you're going to, in your mind, there's something up with that.
Right.
And so everybody is walking around. Nobody has to teach you that. It's the way that
It's a Robert Cialdini.
yes, that's exactly right. All of those things are hardwired. He calls them the click-whir response, right? That when I buy you, we keep these balances. So if we were friends in Phoenix, instead of you coming to Orlando, if I knew you're coming to Orlando and I say to you, you know what? You should go to the Celebration Hotel. They got a great restaurant out on the lake and you can sit outside. It's fantastic, right?
Yeah.
That I would tell you that. Now you're over here. And then when you come back to Phoenix, the next time I see you, I'm kind of looking and waiting to see if you tell me that you took my recommendation, you took my thing. So I'm looking for you to say, oh man, yeah, I went to that Celebration Hotel. It was a great place. We had a great night. And now I get the squirts of dopamine. I puff up because I brought that good thing into your life. And now you owe me.
Right.
We don't say it like that,
No.
but that's the way it works, right? So we look for opportunities to give your clients, your, garage doors under management people, the opportunity to do that. So one way that it might work out, you said you've got a maintenance plan with the priority service and stuff if somebody's on that. What if you extended that level of service to anybody in their inner circle? So if they say, not only if your garage door breaks, you get front of the line service and no service call charge to come out. What if you gave them 3 get out of jail tickets that they could give to their friends? So now anybody whose garage door breaks, they could say, oh yeah, here, I got you, and give them because they're a VIP, that's going to make them look like a hero. And they're going to be very appreciative.
I like it.
And it's much easier for people to give a friend than to refer a friend.
Right.
So they give, and in that giving, they've referred, right? Because that's the most important thing. You want to know somebody that they know that has a garage door need. That's really how it works out, you know?
There's the relationship,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm big on attribution, right? And I have a buddy of mine, his name's Sai. He works at a rug company.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling you, the designers and the realtors, that's his whole business.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, it's white carpet, red
Mhm.
glove, red carpet, white glove.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, the one thing that I do is I paid him a margin.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, I pay it the same day with them.
Mhm.
He goes, I built the whole business up of referrals.
Mm-hmm.
And
And that's fantastic. I think there's a slight distinction between a business related. I think you should definitely look for strategic business relationships where you can set that up, but that's not going to be the same. That's almost counterproductive in a consumer side.
so, I mean, like right now I'm working with a pest control company.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom rubbers on the garage,
Mhm.
number one entry a bug.
Mm.
And I'm giving them a portion of every time they sell bug.
That's perfect. Yeah.
And there's all these B2B
Mhm.
affiliate type stuff, but I've still got to figure out exactly what I should be asking clients.
Mhm.
Hopefully we made them raving fan.
Well, you think about what we need to think about is reverse engineer what you need to orchestrate. So one of the things that we do on the real estate side, and we do it with other businesses, is you look at what would be the high probability conversations, the high value conversations that you would want to know about that your clients are having. And so we look at it and say, okay, they're going to be in all these conversations, and, they're probably going to have, conservatively, let's just say 3 conversations a day, 100 conversations a month per person that you've got. How many garage doors under management do you have?
Well, there's 17,000 service.
Okay.
We do 15,000 jobs a month.
So I can't even count that high, but 17,000 times 100 is 1.7 million.
Right.
So you've got an army of people that are having 1.7 million conversations a month. Okay. Now, if we could plant a chip in the ears of your clients and program it to listen for certain trigger words, and when it hears his trigger words, a big alarm goes off and says, "Oh, referral conversation in sector 4," and you could whisper in their ear what to say to turn that into a referral. That would be a pretty valuable technology if we could do that. So how do we do it? First of all, we need to know, what are we going to program the chip to listen for? What are the high probability conversations? We start reverse engineering. What are the situations that people are going to be in that these conversations might come up? So somebody says, "Oh, my garage door broke." That's the most obvious and clear one. Every time that conversation happens, what do we want people to say? How can we empower them to snap their fingers and things happen so that they look like a stud? They look like they're connected over there. When he snaps his finger, that Tommy jumps into action, right? He's connected.
I love it.
And so we look at it that maybe the garage door broke. Maybe it's cracked. Maybe it's making a noise. Maybe it's, driving them crazy. Maybe it's sticking. Maybe I had this happen actually just recently. The rope,
Manual pull.
the manual pull thing. We had a hurricane, a few months ago, and I've never had to use the manual thing, but we pulled it and the rope snapped. So that was a problem. So we had to reconnect the rope. But my garage is packed with stuff, and we just had the hurricane where ours is not. But when maybe somebody got water damage on the stuff because they had boxes on the floor in the garage and it got wet. So if they had overhead storage for all of this stuff,
that's a great idea.
so you start thinking, what are all these conversations that we can do? And then we send something I call the world's most interesting postcard. And we send it every month. It's just on the front, it's got all kinds of interesting facts on the side, but it's just a carrier, just a carrier for the Post-it note looking graphic message on the back that says, "Hey, Tommy, just a quick note in case you hear someone talking about insert high probability conversation here." So you
So you
might
do
say,
that with realtors.
we do. Well, we do it with all kinds of
How much do
businesses.
you guys pay for them
What do you mean? How much do we?
per mailing piece?
Oh, so the mailing pieces cost about 90 cents or one to go out directly to people, like, digital variable. So it's personalized to
Right.
you. But what we do, if we do on the real estate side, hey, Tommy, just a quick note in case you hear someone talking about buying their first house this year. A lot of people use their tax refund to use as a down payment for a house. If you hear someone talking about buying a home, give me a call or text me. I'll get you a copy of my 6 Steps to Homeownership book to give them. It's got all kinds of tips on how to buy a home.
So it's like a buyer's guide.
Yeah. Or we'd look at it for everything. If spring market is coming, here, just a quick note in case you hear someone talking about selling their house this spring. Spring's right around the corner. Everybody's going to be putting their house on the market. And if you hear somebody talking, give me a call or text me. I'll get you a copy of my How to Sell Your House for Top Dollar Fast book to give them. So now they're not referring, they're giving gifts. They're giving something that positions them as a thoughtful person, and they're going to get some social equity for this. They're going to get some credit for it.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of Marcus Sheridan?
I know the name. What would I
They
know?
asked you answer. He came up with a buyer's guide that comes out and he sends it through HubSpot.
Okay.
And then he tells if they spend more than 20 minutes on this buyer's guide, the conversion rate goes over 90%.
Okay.
And he's got more pools. New River Pools is booked out for 2 years.
Yeah.
And what he does is he knows exactly what they looked at when they looked at them. They know if they looked at financing, they know if they looked at builder grade versus top of the line.
Yeah.
So we've been trying to do some of these things, but there's a lot of opportunities out there. There's a lot of low hanging fruit.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. Like when you look at even just the things that you can do when you look at in the during unit, multiplying things, like every time you go and replace a garage door, we look at when you're there, how many extra jobs does that turn into? I don't know whether you do like, the circle things right around it or their neighbors,
so
or
you do with the neighbors. We're getting into some of that stuff, especially with people. I say I don't sell things people don't need. I say I sell things people don't need all the time. I sell things people want.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I mean, no one needs a new iPhone. No one needs a new car.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
I think that's just this old school mentality. Of, it's not broke, don't fix it, but it's going to be broken in 6 months. If you look at my car, there's a problem that's going to be over the horizon. I want to know about it and get it fixed so I'm not in the freeway.
That's it.
One of the things we have at A1 Garage Service is a rehash team. And, our conversion rate is only about half of the clients we go to. So re-engaging old clients, there's tens of millions of dollars. What would be your best way to kind of reactivate those old leads? And the question
I think looking at it. Yeah. I think that's part of the after unit, right? That's part of the thing is nurturing lifelong relationships. So how many of them when you're doing the garage, the intake part of setting up a new customer should include looking around, like, what are the opportunities? If you're standing on their driveway and you're looking 5 houses down and 10 across the street and you're seeing eyeballing, how many of them need a new garage, right? That you target that kind of thing as a thing there. You look at their garage, you're doing the garage door, but you look inside. Do they need the flooring done? Do they need the storage? So you're creating these almost like referral profiles, like a dentist. When a dentist takes on a new client, they do the things and exams and they build out every possible thing that they could do. Nobody's going to do all of it right now, but you've got a sense of what the potential case value is of the new patient. And if you look at that and say, well, they've got a garage, do they need the floor? Do they have the stuff? Those are opportunities that you can start educating and showing those people, about.
What's the best way to hit customers? Is it through retargeting? Is it email? Is it texting? Is it mailers? Is it postcards, handwritten letters?
Yes.
Seems like there's 100,
Yes.
all of them.
Yes.
You want to go all.
Yes. You want to go, I mean, you want you want to look at, first of all, you want to have a baseline communication that there's at least this going out to them, right? Like you look at, and it's all just looking at the ROI on it, right? Like you look at, you've got a $5,000 value per customer, their average order kind of thing. So you look at that and how frequent, what's the
7 to 10 years.
right. So there you go. So if you just look at that in 7 to 10 years, they're going to need something. They're going to need something else. Yeah. Yeah.
Or they're moving to a new house.
Oh,
and Peter
exactly.
along there.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's part of the thing is you got to realize that value of, first of all of the, we actually call it like, a multiplier index. So if you look at, I would call it the garage multiplier index, and I would measure it in your during unit of saying, okay, we did this garage, but did we get these extra points? Meaning if every job comes with the opportunity to get the garage, get the flooring, get the storage, and get a neighbor, that's 4 opportunities that you have, and a referral from the homeowner. That's 5 opportunities that you have right there. And if we look at your last 10 garage, how many you do a day or whatever, but
No, 15,000 a month. So
wow, okay, 500 a day. So you look at this as a multiplier, and you say, okay, on the last, take them in bundles of 100. On the last 100 garages that we did, or the 100 that we did today, how many points did we get out of a possible 5? If you take it back over the last 100 and you said, okay, we did the garage, but did we get the flooring? Did we get the storage? Did we get another one? Did we get one in the neighborhood? And you measure what that could possibly be, so maybe now that $5,000 job has the opportunity to turn into $10,000 or 15,000, maybe. If you got 2 referrals for garage doors. And you start to really look at the value of that. That's the first opportunity. There's a guy in Las Vegas who was running the MGM Grand. Gamal Aziz is the guy's name. He took over from the Bellagio. He went to MGM, and now he went to Macau. But he came into the MGM Grand, and this was one of the most impactful things that I've learned. He came in, and he has an approach of looking at all of the components of the business and looking at it and saying, how high is high? Like, what could we be doing here, right? So I'm establishing this as an idea that if you look at, instead of just the one garage door, if our thing is, we could be doing 5 jobs here, on this one thing.
Right.
And so the way he did that was he looked at all of the income producing things at the MGM, the restaurants, the retail, the gaming, the conventions, hotel rooms, all of it, entertainment. And he started looking at them and said, how high is high? So restaurants was the first thing he looked at. And they had, the biggest hotel in the world, 5,000 rooms. And they had a successful restaurant. They were doing $4 million a year in the restaurant, their main restaurant there. And he would stand in the entry of the hotel every night, and he'd see people getting in limos and taxis, and he'd say, where are you going? And they said, we're going to Spago, or we're going to Nobu, or these destination restaurants. And he knew that if we had a destination restaurant in the same footprint that we've got our successful restaurant right now, we could be doing $8 million a year instead of $4 million a year. So he went to the board, and he treats that as a loss. He says, we're losing $4 million a year because of our $4 million
I see.
profit center here. And he said, got them to agree to rip out the restaurant. He partnered with Mike Amina, opened Nob Hill. First year out, they did $11 million in sales. And so I look at that, I'd say that because I look at your opportunity there and say, okay, you did on the last 100 jobs, you did this much. You got I would look at it and go as far as create a real metric around it.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
you say, yes, that you say our garage multiplier index, and how you calculate it is we look at the last 100 and we say, how many did you get on average out of those 5? So you got a possible 500 points on that.
Okay.
And you look at how many did you get, and you count that as you divide it by 100, and that's your index. So it could be 1.2, let's say.
1.2. Yeah.
But the goal is to get it to 3.5 or to get it, and you measure
like
that
that
as a moving metric.
What you do is you break down the business into, I love Henry Ford. I love it.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And it's focused. I wanted to ask you return on relationships.
Yeah,
Explain
yeah.
that to me.
Yeah. So that's where we look at it, that right now, one of the assets you have is those however many people you said are garages under management, the people that your sticker is on their door, you put in their garage door right now. Let's call it 20,000 people or whatever. So we got 20,000 people there. Now going into next year, this is how we measure your after unit, that 60% of your revenue right now comes from those service contracts. That's an after unit attributable metric, right? That's coming from, it's not from the advertising that you did. It's from nurturing lifetime relationships with the people that you have already.
Yep.
And so we're separating the 40% that's new business is attributable to your before unit, right? Because that's all that it takes. A lot of times people measure their advertising success. They look at their gross revenue. They look at how much they spent and they say, as a percentage of the gross revenue, this is what we're doing
10%.
in the before, which doesn't make sense. If we treat the after unit here as something separate, remember we think about these units of the business.
Right.
Our goal for that is to drive return on relationship, meaning how much revenue can we generate per client that we have per garage under management. And so as a percentage of your revenue, that's what we look at for the return on relationship.
Got it. Okay.
So your 20,000 people generated $20 million or whatever the number
It'd be $1
is.
million.
$1 million. Yeah.
Yeah. When it comes to marketing, how do you ensure that your clients are 100% winning before you pitch them or ask for their bid?
Well, I think that so many of the things, like in a real physical goods type of thing where they're going to get a garage, where you have to really make sure is that their downside is protected, that they're going to love the garage, that it's going to be working, and they're going to be 100% happy with it. That's kind of, so you can hedge a lot of that with guarantees or with, because that's what you want. You don't want anybody to you don't want them to have a problem, and I think that's the big,
it was, to people want it done now, on their time. They want it done right. And they want it done at a good price.
Yeah.
It's hard to do all three. I pick and get it done on their timeline to make sure it's the best quality.
Right. Exactly.
We're definitely not the cheapest.
Right.
But those are my clientele.
Right.
The affluent.
That's exactly
the ones that just get it done.
Yeah. That's what they want, is the least hassles, right? That's the way I think about any of those home services. I don't want to think about this water heater or all this repairs. It's going to be months to get this whole, all the remodel done now because of it. Yeah.
So speaking of marketing to the affluent, I mean, literally there are jobs. We did a job in Orlando for $125,000. It was like pre-garage. I could do, we did $160 million. If I had $100,000 average ticket, and I just did think about that. 100,000. If I just depended $1 million a day, and let's just say 300 days out of there, there's 300 million. It doubles my business.
Yeah.
So what would you do to drive more of the affluent? And some of
What, how high can you go? Like, what is the best, no matter what, at the polls, there's going to be somebody who's attracted to that. You ever heard of Richard Mille watches? Richard Mille watches. And these watches, I said in Toronto, and where we stay, there in Yorkville at the Hazelton Hotel, there was a Richard Mille watch store in there. And there wasn't a single thing in the store under $120,000. Now, it's a retail store in a hotel in that, well, a nice part of Toronto, but Richard Mille started the watch company with the intention of building the very best watch possible. Like engineer, it's the one that Rafa Nadal wears and Bubba Watson wears and Lewis Hamilton and all these extreme sport guys with their things. And his intention was, he said, let's build the best watch, the best engineering, the best everything, lightest, most durable stuff, and then figure out what it needs to cost. Then go in looking to set a thing. And he found themselves alone in the market in that there's a lot of $30,000, $50,000, $60,000 watches.
Oh, yeah, Rolex. Yeah.
Their average is 185 at Richard Mille. And so his whole audience is there's $1 million watches that are these collector pieces but they're so fragile that you got to keep them in temperature controlled things. They're really art investment pieces.
Right.
They're not for wearing around like a real durable daily watch thing. And he realized that they found themselves in a market segment that there was really no competition for them. And you think about all the people, like the guy who's got a $20 million yacht. Of course, he's got a $185,000 watch or a $500,000 watch.
You got to figure out they're reading out magazine.
The guy who's got 6 supercars. Of course, he's got another one to wear on his. That's really the position. It was like a supercar on your wrist kind of thing,
and it's a status symbol.
That's what it is. So now you start to think, what would be it over the top, make the best garage?
Well, think about this. There's people that pay $250,000 for a tape, wood tape.
Yes.
What if you got that same artist?
That's what I'm saying.
To build a custom.
Now you're talking.
And then a signature suit.
Yes.
And we just get with that one individual, and now it's a status symbol.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Because people walk through these houses and they go, yeah, this is Paul Newman's, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
And this door, it could be a signature suit.
Yeah.
That's done in a
How about those new the appliances now? The new you go to all these real luxury homes, they've got the $20,000-$30,000 gas range.
$9,000 just for my coffee maker. Well, now
exactly. And the reason that they get those is because it's a status symbol in a lot of ways,
I just want to really coffee.
Of course you did. Yeah.
But, no, it's outrageous.
But that's the thing, like Birkin bags or, the way you got it because it's
like women do this all the time with their purses.
Yeah. And you just got to own it and be,
but that's white glove, best. Like,
and it's probably a separate brand.
Yeah. You want to have it called
distinct.
like, you'd want to make it like, Thomas Anthony. My last name's
there you go. Yeah.
Like the Thomas.
Oh, you got a Thomas Anthony garage. I mean, the Thomas Anthony signature garage. That's, that's why people do it. That's what they want. Do you ever watch Shark Tank?
Oh, I love Shark Tank. We were just talking with Joe about Damon.
Yeah. So we had Damon on out of marketing too. But Kevin O'Leary.
Kevin O'Leary
is
Mr. Wonderful.
Yeah. So he was telling a story about he was in France and he went to Hermes and he was trying to buy 5 ties. So he asked, we get a discount, 20% off. We bought 5. And the woman looked at him and of course she didn't know who he is or anything, but she's like, why do you want so many ties if you cannot afford them? Why don't you buy 1 tie and then save your money and come and buy more?
That's right.
Like nobody's going to get a discount on these ties, It's so funny, but those people, they're not going to be looking for.
They don't look for deals.
A discount.
They don't. And that's what's important. I have 6,200 call tracking numbers.
Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
then my system
Yeah.
tells me exactly
Mhm.
attributed her lead. And
Mhm.
I get to A/B test different messages.
It's perfect.
It's fun stuff. And I'm
But
in the final
imagine that.
stages of my career. I'm having a lot of fun.
Hmm.
What are the best business owners need to start implementing in their businesses to get them out of the day to day? Like you said, Michael Gerber was on my podcast. He was in my office.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know if he follows the E-Myth perfectly because I worked with him.
Right, exactly. He's an idea guy. Yeah, yeah. It's a great idea. Well, that's part of the thing is getting the engine, the core engine to be able to operate without you. That's where the freedom comes, it's got to be operational.
Well, I'm here.
Yeah.
And I love it. I'm doing this.
Exactly.
The company still runs, and I'm always looking at it from a distance. Like I always say, I'm on Mars looking at Earth, different volcanoes and hurricanes. That's where I could dive in and try to see what's going on. But I'm a big fan of the system.
Yes.
The system dictates the
It
output.
has to be that.
They don't say it's all the people. I'm like, the system found the people. The ride along force, the background check, the drug check, the dinner. I think one of the biggest things that I've learned is getting the whole family involved with the hiring. We celebrate all these things when people retire. Why not celebrate when they start working?
Right on. That's smart. See?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But what are some of the best books that you recommend? Give me 3 books that changed every way you look at marketing.
Yeah. So that was one, E-Myth, I think, baseline.
Oh yeah.
Got to read that. I think Robert Cialdini's Influence book and Persuasion. We'll count that as one book. Read both of those.
Amazing.
Yes. Okay, then I'm going to go something you probably hadn't thought of. There's a book called How to Argue and Win Every Time by Jerry Spence. And that was it's a phenomenal book. We're good. Yeah.
What's his name?
Jerry Spence. He's an attorney. Never lost a case. He was a high profile attorney. You probably saw him, on CNN.
Give me one more.
Legal analyst.
I love this.
Okay.
You
You
want
want
one more
more?
that no one knows about?
Okay. One more that no one knows
No.
about? Okay. Let me think here. I think, The One-to-One Future. It was written in 1996, Don Peppers, Martha Rogers, and it outlined what seemed like futuristic thing at the time, because it was just at the very beginning of the internet. And now all of the things that he had talked about are super easy to execute now. And it's talking about looking at each relationship as the opportunity that it is.
Yep.
And I think that's a really good one.
And if someone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way to do it?
So deanjackson.com is probably the easiest place. It's got everything that I do.
Right.
In one, Joe Polish and I've got 400 something episodes of I Love Marketing podcast, and that's at ilovemarketing.com.
Yep.
We do still new episodes every month.
Love it. And we talked about a lot of stuff here. So I'm going to let you close us out on a final thought that maybe we didn't discuss.
Okay. I think, I think you made like a thought for you.
No,
or
just
for
for the audience.
Anybody. I think
maybe a go-to with this is your best advice or best advice for a business.
I think that's my best advice is to think about your business. What would it look like if you broke it into 3 units and had somebody as a driver of each of those? Any one of them is a pretty simple business. If all you had to do is find people and do the marketing and get people who want to do what you do, that's a pretty easy business. If all you had to do was serve the people that want the stuff, that's a pretty easy business. But where the real leverage, real asset, the real unique, only to you opportunity is your after unit. And orchestrating referrals, nurturing lifetime relationships, putting somebody in charge of making sure that even if they don't get that floor done right now or get the storage right now, that sometime in the next 100 weeks, that's going to happen.
I love that.
Yeah.
There's so many opportunities that we're not taking advantage of.
Yeah.
Dean, let's get some dinner, brother.
Yeah, that was great.
All right.